So we come back and dwell upon the supermind, so that we may one day dwell in the supermind. But to dwell in the mother is everything. It is all containing. So Sri Aurobindo is revealing to us creation from above downwards. If you look at it, he starts with pure existence. First he puts a background of what human aspiration is. Then he starts explaining to us all the principles that have gone into this creation. And here again we see the Vedic rishis speak of 7. Sri Aurobindo says 7 or 8. That's very interesting. We'll speak about it in a moment. So what are the 7 principles? Satchidanand, Sat, Chit, Anand. And from that, there are the lower 3, which are its reflections. And then there is a link. So there is the Pararth, that is the higher hemisphere, which is the divine worlds. And what is meant by the Pararth is very simply worlds which are based on oneness. Oneness is never forgotten there. That's what is the Maharas, where it is the same Krishna dancing with so many and each one is keeping pace. So it's a Maharaj which is eternally going on. Why? Because the Para Prakriti and the Supreme Being, He is in everyone and all are in Him, and there is this constant flow. Here He disappears in the middle at midnight. Why He disappeared? Because world is not ready for that. That Maharaj, there's few who try to keep the steps, but then we know later on jealousies and all these things, pain, viraha, all these things take over human nature. So there are these 3 higher principles and the 3 lower. The lower is mind, life, body. Higher is Sat, Chit, Ananda. And the lower is mind, life, body, which we are aware of. Why they are lower? Simply because they are based on division and multiplicity. When the mind tries to annul division, it believes, see, if you tell the mind to have oneness, so what will the mind say? Yes, we are all one, chalo. Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, sab hain bhai, bhai, as if baki bhi hain bhai. Jo, who is a non-believer, everybody. You can't just speak of religion. But it doesn't work like that. It annuls. It tries to annul and create a new religion, which becomes its own unique religion. That's how the mind tries. It has no other way. But if we annul differentiations to go into the one, Satchidananda, then we have failed to fulfill God's purpose. So the Sat Chit Ananda and mind, life, body, they live in division. Therefore, because of agyan, avidya, so I am different, you are separate. Now, different is okay, but separate is not true. We can see it in life. Each plant is different from the other. But plants as a species, or trees as a species, they have something very common about them. Again, trees are different from animals, but there is still, if we go deeper, a commonality. Not only a commonality in the depth, on the surface there is an interdependence, interconnectedness of the cosmos. Oneness is always behind different objects, but deep behind, basically through the play of atoms, we have different appearances, objects. So there is everywhere something which differentiates, and there is something which is like a common substratum. And this way, if we go into the entire creation, we will see that there are differentiations endless variety, diversity as it is called. But diversity is always held in the breast of the one. You disturb one element in creation, you cannot but help disturbing all other elements which have to readjust to a new balance. In human life, we see it. And so it is with everything else. So, this is where we have to understand the difference between differentiation, which creates diversity, and oneness, where there is all diversity is only as a potential. Like in the heart of a writer, there are all kinds of books. When they come out, there will be diversity, but they have all come from the same author. So there is this oneness, worlds of oneness, Sat Chit Ananda, and there are worlds where there is multiplicity. That's how it is described. Multiplicity, there is diversity, there is differentiation, mind, life, body. So, what is it? What is that plane or power that changes this oneness into multiplicity? That power is the supermind. It is the link. And as we have seen, supermind receives that oneness and unity. What does it do? It does not divide, it differentiates. That is what we learn. Like for instance in ashram, I take this practical thing. We are all mother's children. I am talking of the larger ashram. We are mother's children. We are each different. But we are mother's children. See, this is differentiation. But if we say, no, I am this, I am that, you are this, you are that, then I am creating division. I am better, you are worse, and things like that. Everybody must do it my way or no way. Then I am ultimately acting on the basis of agyan. So the difference is in supermind, oneness and multiplicity is there. How does it create multiplicity? By differentiating all the potentialities in the one. How many potentialities? Infinite. So first what it will do? It will receive them just as they are. Then what it will do? It will do a differentiate, sort them out. Then what it will do? It will project into the play of time and space. And when it projects, it must also ensure that these projections, however random they may seem, ultimately follow that seer will. That's another definition for supermind. They follow the original idea. How does it do it? It flows into creation, hidden inside, everywhere, as it determining power. So supermind is the link, but it is regarded as belonging to the parardh, higher hemisphere. Why? Because supermind also lives in oneness. Lives is a way of saying it acts on the basis of oneness, but it is special because it knows oneness, but it also knows the multiplicity. Beyond it, there is no multiplicity. It is there only as a potential in Sachidanand. So if you enter there, you don't understand creation. Why? Because creation is about diversity. In creation, you have to know the dharma of each thing. You have to know, if you drink poison, it's going to kill you. You can't act that oneness, snake, Baba, you are my friend. Why? Because you are God, you are Vasuki. Snake will say, all right, I'll tell you who am I? You can't act that way. So there is oneness where all these things are together. What happens to poison? It finds its right place. It becomes Nilakantha, adding to Shiva's grandeur and majesty. Shiva, by drinking poison, becomes more grand. So there it is in its right place. But when man, he swallows it, he dies. So in the one, they are all there as a potential. But what does supermind do? It differentiates. So to understand creation and to lead a life which is a divine life, a life of true perfection, not perfection as we understand this. Very interesting. Mother says, human beings understand by perfection virtuosity. But as we have seen, just as a person doing the role of a good person, hero, or a villain, The role is not given on the basis of his being a hero or villain. It's given on the basis of a particular acting that he has to do, for which he is more suited. But the villain, if he forgets and he thinks, I am a real villain, then there is a problem. Otherwise, he is playing a role. And when the time comes, the role changes. As simple as that. So that is how the supermind differentiates. So supermind also belongs to the parardh, the higher hemisphere, because it doesn't lose oneness. So now we have 4 principles in the higher hemisphere, parardh or the divine worlds. We have Satlok, Tapolok, Chidghan Lok, and Maharlok, supermind. That's how the Vedic rishis called it. They differentiated between Swarlok and Maharlok. Supermind is Maharlok. And Swarlok is from the sun, the rays that come down. They've entered into ignorance. That's where we have the world of the gods as we know, not the original gods. So that's the Swarlok. And then below we know that there are different. So when we look at it like this, supermind is part of the higher hemisphere. And there are 3 worlds below: mind, life, and body. Where did they come from? We know Sat Chit Ananda came from Sat Chit Anand. But where did these? They have to also come from there. Now, very interesting. Where does matter come from? From the substance of pure existent. The real sense of Padartha, the pure one true existent. From Sat comes matter. Where does life come from? See, it is the nature of Chit Tapas. Knowledge and will. Life that wants to know and achieve. Know and achieve. That's how it goes from one to another. The seat of will that is distorted as desires in the lower nature. But behind there is this will which is obscured, because when we live in desire, then we don't know the will. We say I will, but that's a misnomer. Where did it come from? From Chit. Chit Tapas. And we can see it, something even in this lower hemisphere. To fulfill their desires, human beings are ready to undergo any kind of tapas. Strange, but people do it. So there is this life. Where does mind come from? Mind comes from supermind. Supermind limits itself and becomes mind. What is the difference? Mind divides. That's why people who say that by mental discussion, debate, you can have unity. For God's sake, 10,000 years man has tried it. No round table or square table or rectangular table conference can create unity. Where is the seat of unity? The supermind or the divine seated in the heart. Connect with the heart, you will have unity instantly. People often ask me that, have you learned Tamil? I said, no. How do you communicate from the heart? How do you communicate from the heart? I have love, goodwill, I smile and they smile back. Rest we know, we understand each other. By gesture, this, that, a word here or the word there. So many years, had no problem. Things, no disaster has taken place. Once you have it in the heart. So there is this, mind is coming, but mind divides. It's the dividing. Why mind comes out of dividing? Out of supermind is oneness, but this division, principle of division is in mind. Why? Because now start this focusing. Supermind has cast these seeds into creation, time and space. Now there has to be an agency which receives and focuses it. So one example is, earlier people used to say there are multiple different kinds of intelligences. But it comes from the one intelligence. So from there it can enter into craftsmanship. That's another kind of intelligence. Or you may be a shoemaker. You may be organizing an empire. Different kinds of, but it comes from that one intelligence. So focus, to limit, concentrate on one point. Mind is required. It's a tool. And this extreme concentration makes it forget of the one. That's how it becomes avidya. When doing a work, I forget who I am, even at a most fundamental level. Then it's avidya. So why it has been allowed all that at the right place? So the Vedic rishis spoke of the 7 planes. And since these 7 planes are both ascending and descending, because it is through layers after layers, creation has descended right into matter and below. And through these steps it will climb back. And in each, everything is there because Supermind is there. It's not that in matter Satchidanand is not there, it is in everything and everywhere. Because Supermind is there. In every differentiated element, all the rest are there. So now you see 7 times 7 becomes 49. In each, all the others are there. And if we take the stairs of ascent and descent, ascending and descending, you have another 49. And 49 and 49 are 98. And add to it the one that is above, infinite, absolute, and the one that is below. Between these 2 oceans, our life moves. A fathomless, boundless zero, fathomless zero below, and equally fathomless zero above. Then we have how many? 100. That's how Indian mathematics worked. You have 100. So that's why जब zero दिया मेरे भारत ने, it's not like it just suddenly popped up an idea and said take a zero, I have a zero, I have discovered zero. It discovered these principles. So you have the 100. And Supermind is the link in between. But we spoke about 8. Where does bliss go? Bliss is somehow hidden. We talk about Sat, from which matter has come, Chit Tapas, life has come, Supermind, mind has come. What happened to Ananda mein? Satchit Anand we spoke of. Ananda dwells in us as the psychic essence, psychic being. It will develop into the psychic being. The nature of the psychic is that it gives us Ananda. There is something called a psychic sorrow, but that's not like Viraha Vedana. It is when we see things which are so contrary to the psychic view of life. When you see a friend deceiving you, a friend on whom you have showered all love, then suddenly for a moment, and that's not a sorrow which is personal, oh, mere saath, but you feel that why this? And then in aspiration that things should become better, beautiful. So there is something like a psychic sorrow. It is very deep. But otherwise the nature of psychic is Ananda. That's why, who is Anandamay? Krishna. So now we understand why all souls are regarded as Krishnamay. Krishna says, Mamai Vansha. See, he has said many things, but very cryptically. But he didn't explain fully. That's why he had to come back as Sri Aurobindo. One of the reasons. He has to explain. He has said, Mamai Vansh. We are Vasudeva Kutumbakam. All this he is saying. But Vasudeva Kutumbakam cannot be on the basis of mind, life, body. If you do it, there will be absolutely Pondrak Vasudev's Kutumbakam. Imitative oneness. Vasudev Kutumbakam can only and a million times only be on the basis of realization of the true self within, not otherwise. If we try to do it, it's very dangerous. It's a very profound truth. Why? Because that is where we know that all are children of the same mother. It is not a mental knowledge. When we realize it, that's why when mother was asked, how can humanity become one? She didn't say every year we'll hold a camp in which all people from different states and different languages and different will come and all of you together do some dance drama or something, people will become one. She said by becoming conscious of the origin. Even when we say mutual respect, we are still, there is a barrier. I have a mutual respect. Look here, you are not me, different. But okay, I am allowing you. So long as you don't step on my toe. So humanity has to go through the psychic door towards the supramental to discover Vasudev Kutumbakam. Otherwise, like all great phrases, it is going to mess up this original plan. So we read, lest I again flow with the supramental inspiration. Okay, page 134. This intermediary term, the supermind, above the boundless oneness where everything is there as a potential, and below the lower three worlds, the higher three worlds and lower three worlds. This intermediary term is therefore the beginning and end of all creation and arrangement, the Alpha and the Omega, the starting point of all differentiation, the instrument of all unification, originative, executive, and consummative of all realized or realizable harmonies. Differentiation, it's not enough. Everything in its own place, at its own time, in its own way, it must fulfill the purpose. You have to use a kitchen knife to cut vegetables, not to do halal. That's not fair. That's doing unrit. So many things like that. So again, what does it start differentiating with? It is because of the supermind that we speak of Satlok, Tapolok, Chitlok. The Supreme uses supermind, let's use a human language, to discover his own triple, triune reality. So what is the supermind? It is the operating system of the Supreme. It is that consciousness with which the Supreme knows himself and knows the world. He knows himself, I'm sure. So how does he know himself? There has to be some way, not automatically. He knows himself through the truth consciousness. So another term for supermind is truth consciousness. He knows himself. But he also knows us. Why? Because this truth consciousness is also operating in the world through the supermind. So supermind is that by which the Supreme knows himself and knows the world. That's why when people say, I know the Supreme, you ask one question, do you know me? No, I know myself as Supreme. Then you are deluded. But if you know yourself in the highest sense and know the world and creation and everything in it, then yes, we are touching something of that reality. Because it's not an isolated knowledge. The divine knows himself in the heart of all creatures. That's how he acts and reacts, not based on outward. Not based on how many hours one is sitting and closing the eyes and meditating. Others may be fooled. How much he meditates. He knows kya chal raha hai andar mein. Why? Because he is truth conscious. Human beings, it can get reflected as truth sight and truth audition. That's what we read. But the Supreme is truth conscious. And based on that he knows. You just can't, it's the last barrier. You can't just cheat the divine. You may cheat the world. You may cheat yourself. You cannot deceive the divine because he is truth conscious. So this truth consciousness through which the divine knows himself, and it is omnipotent, omniscience. Why? Because this truth conscious, by this truth consciousness, he is knowing about the whole world, each element. But since we have seen supermind is not only knowledge but also will, therefore it is also omnipotence. Because it is acting in the whole world is running by his breath, by its fiat. We have questions why there is chaos. We'll talk about all of that later. I'll not skip the step. But the divine is omniscience or omnipotence. But then he has, out of him has issued forth. And of course he is everywhere. Omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresent. But because he has ordained a law of truth. We see this in Yagnavalk's prayer in Isha Upanishad. It says, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapihitam mukham Tattvam Pushan Pavranu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. In modern language, I would paraphrase, everybody tells me, do this, do that. I don't know what I should do. Tell me the law of truth, what you have ordained for me. What is your will? What is the divine will in me? So that I can lead my life according to that. This is the divine truth, hidden behind its masks. So Satya Dharmaye. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is the unfolding of truth based on the vision of truth, based on the power, by the power of truth in time and space. That's Dharma. So Dharma is everywhere in creation. But there is also Adharma, that which deviates from this truth of being. If you force a child to become a doctor, when he wants to be a painter, you're doing adharma. Because dharma, that's what is seated inside. It is the true law, and it ultimately will push him. He'll become unhappy. Why? Because you have pushed him to follow adharma. So there are many things like that. I have just given one example. So Satya Dharmaye. So Rishi knows that I can't straight away. It prays. He had to wait for so many years for Sri Aurobindo to come and mother to open the door. Tattvam Pushana Pavrano. Oh fosterer, oh nourisher. Remove that lid, so that golden lid, so that I may see the vision of truth and the law of truth. He had to wait for so long. 29th February 1956. His prayer is fulfilled. But he gave away. Till then, what should we do? So he says, Vayuranilamritam achedam bhasmantam shariram om krito smarkatam smarkatam krito smarkatam spar. Oh, will that which was done remember. Oh, will that which was done remember. Vayuranilamritam achedam. These body, life, breath of life, all these are perishable. Bhasmantam shariram. Try to get that will which is inside. How to get that will? It is now become crooked. So it gives another way. So the way is Agne Naye Supataraye. O Agni, hidden in my heart, I worship to thee, I surrender to thee. You show me the right path. Make the crooked straight and show me the right path towards felicity. So the supermind, which in its own home, comes here also, in the heart, as the divine will impelling us. And in the supermind, all the great gods are there, but in their original form. Swarup, as aspects of the one divine, differentiated but not divided. As they come down, lower down, then they have sometimes even competition. Gods of the Puranas. Sometimes you don't know whether human beings are better or they are better. Why? Because it's many layers down. But in the supermind, they are there in an absolute. So when the mother said, age of religions is over, we don't need to worship the gods. She was doing a favor even to the gods. Why? Because we were worshipping the lower forms. Shiva is separate, Vishnu is separate. See how many fights were there between the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites, and even today it continues. And within the Shaivite community, there are the Lingayats, and there are others, and so many, I don't know. Ayyappa followers, so many, they fight. Why? Because they actually, it's okay, they are also gods, but of the original. But when you enter into the consciousness of the supermind, then what do you see? You see Shiva as an aspect of the one who is destroying, and by destruction, bringing out new creation. So gods are also happy. Their origin is in the supermind. We have unfortunately brought them down. And to what horrible levels? So what she told us is a very profound truth. I don't see the need of worshipping any god higher or lower. Why? Because we must worship the Supreme, and in the Supreme they are all very happy together. So this is what the supermind is. Another passage we can read. Very powerful passages, all of them. Thus the whole process, page 137, The second paragraph. Thus, the whole process of differentiation by the real idea, creative of the universe, is a putting forward of principles, forces, forms, which contain for the comprehending consciousness all the rest of existence within them, and front the apprehending consciousness with all the rest of existence implicit behind them. So when I play a role, all else is there behind. That's how I can play the role. So there is the comprehending consciousness which takes out that possibility which you have to bring out. And there is always that consciousness which knows that there is behind that oneness. And therefore, when we live in the supermind or get the touch of the supermind, what happens? Therefore, all is in each as well as each in all. This is the sense of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. In House of the Spirit, Sri Aurobindo describes what is that new creation. He describes a new and marvelous creation rose from the heart of the Divine Mother, uses the word a bliss, a power, a flame white love, caught all into a soul, immense embrace. And creation founds its truth on oneness breast. And then he says, there each by spiritual links were joined to all. Each became the space of all. And there even wrestle was a joy and a play, where there was extreme difference, yet it was a joy and a play. That is the supramental. And here in the world of ignorance, each wants to be the all. See the difference? Very subtle. Once again I'll read. Therefore all is in each as well as each in all. Because you are conscious that everything else is put behind. And so also in another person, everything else is put behind. But there is this aspect which is in front. See, mothers, devotees, disciples, none of them will be alike. This is something very, very few people perhaps, if you notice, read the lives of Pavitrada, Nalanida, Champaklalji, Nirodha, Pranabda, many of them. And the feminine powers, if you want to put it. So you read them, you will see them all as unique and different. You can't brand one into a fixed type. Everybody is meditating, everybody is saying, you see, you must know that life is Brahman. When you hear many of the, sorry to say, but Swamiji, they're repeating the same thing with a little bit of change of tone and gesture and this thing. But here you see, then you just can't compare. And Champaklalji gives an example. Once mother tells Pavitrada, you have to fix something or whatever. So he has to climb. So mother passes a chair on which he stands and does whatever has to be done. Champaklalji says, see, this is the difference. We cannot do it. Mother's chair, how can I put my feet over it? This doesn't mean one should put the feet. Mother has said, and Pavitra is obeying. He's not using mental calculations. Now why she said, what she had to break in him, what she had to free, or what she had to reveal to Champaklalji, for all you know, because such is her play, where with each act she fulfills many things simultaneously. Therefore, every seed of things implies in itself all the infinity of various possibilities, but is kept to one law of process and result by the will. That is to say, will with a capital W, by the knowledge force of the conscious being who is manifesting himself and who, sure of the idea in himself, predetermines by it his own forms and movements. Its closest hint in the Gita is Swadharma. Swadharmo nidhanam shreya paradharmo vyava. It's a hint. But in the supermind, you know it exactly. And in each one. So here at least, you become conscious of, or you know, Swadharma. So here again, one last thing we can read. So in the supermind, we have, because supermind everywhere there is the real idea, the reality. So the supermind does not look at things as this is thought, this is reality. That's how we hear, no? Mind, array, this is idea. This is truth, fact. That's why it creates a difference between fact, fiction, myth. God knows how many kinds of differences. But in the supermind, which is everywhere, the idea is its own truth. The idea of the stone is no less true than the stone itself. The idea of God, no less true than this physical world or God Himself. And through it, that's why through the idea you can enter into that. Even, of course, the idea in the human mind is not real idea. But if you can use it, because that's how it is. Supermind uses everything. In imagination, thought, it is there. In mind, we can actually glimpse it. We may call it imagination. Watch a TV program and see how it affects you. Tell somebody it is all imagination. Real bhoot nahi hai. But see something which is horror, you are filled with fear. Equally, you see Ramayana and Ganga, Jamuna, sometimes Saraswati also begins to flow. Arey, somebody will say, kya pagalpan hai? This is not Rama, this is Arun Govil. Keep quiet. You maroon. I also know that. You think you need to tell me? I know which is the caste. But see, right now, to me, this represents the idea of Rama. That's how real idea operates. It does not create division between thought and physical reality. To it, idea is a vibration of truth. What does it do? It clothes itself in sound and word symbols. Then it comes lower down and a series of thoughts. And then still lower down into an article. But it contains everything within itself. How it will flow? That it will go its way. And then on page 141 is this chapter, the Supreme Truth Consciousness. Now Sri Aurobindo is taking us through the door of the supermind to the glimpse of the Creator. We have to regard, therefore, this all-containing, all-originating, all-consummating supermind. Why consummating? Because it leads everything ultimately towards itself. That's inbuilt, it's programmed. We are programmed to reach the origin. We may deny, we may try, we may give the embrace of the lover or of the enemy of God. Doesn't matter, ego will be crushed. And when the ego is crushed, we merge. But the difference is in either the fulfillment or denuding the soul. That's all. All consummating supermind as the nature of the divine being. What does it mean? By the supramental manifestation, hastening that process. Anyways, it is there. Over 10,000 years, million years, it will end up realize whatever number of pralayas. You just can't thwart it. It will use every pralaya for a new, higher becoming. But now that the supermind has manifested, it will hasten that process. It will make the soul truth conscious more and more. It will open the doors of the mind towards a greater inspiration and revelation. It will awaken in man the faculties. It will turn human will towards the divine will. It will turn children away from Papa kehte hain to karo, Mama kehti hai so I must. They want to, everybody is God concealed. So, not indeed in its absolute self-existence, but in its action as the Lord and Creator of its own worlds, this is the truth of that which we call God. Now He's got us. Finally, we are in front of God. Who is God? Creator, preserver, destroyer, nourisher, nurturer, guide, all the things, mother, father. Somebody with whom we can relate and who relates with us. But He relates on a different basis, on the basis of truth, using even ignorance for the fulfillment of truth, because that is how the real idea operates. Because what is ignorance? It has come out from Him. He doesn't pass the buck to us. Oh, you ignorant fellow, I had written in a holy book 1500 years back, you must follow this. He doesn't do that. At each moment, that's why for God there is no past, present, future, but each moment is an eternal moment. Why? Because in that vastness, all the movements of time are there, all within. Like a master chess player has already planned all the moves. I know some people, I used to play chess, and one of my college with whom he was a champion and I was pitted against him. This fellow, very arrogant, no, youngster. So all my friends went to cheer me. This fellow, when he played, after 10 moves, I knew, finished. Whatever I may do, then I realized he has planned 40 moves ahead. Genius. So I realized, gaya, pata kat gaya. End of my chess, wanting to become something in chess. 40 moves, who will do all this madhapachi? For the divine, all the moves are foreseen. That is the vision in the triple time vision. And he pushes his cards. You try to oppose, he will do something else. You try to go this way, he'll do. Ultimately, ho hi hai so hi jo Rama rachi rakha, ko kari tarka badhava hi shakha. The will of the Lord is fulfilled in spite of us, despite us, even opposing us. That's what Sri Aurobindo in his supramental vision sees. When Shri Krishna says, ultimately, don't worry, this lawyer, this judge, that, ultimately, virajing into Ram Lalai. I mean, I am just, will be fulfilled. 500 years, 100 years, that's how. In space. So it's eternal present. He doesn't act according to, now I'll do this, then I'll do that. All time is nothing but a single vision he is seeing. Similarly, all space. Simultaneously. And one example of this all space will be, ask people, these, astrologers, not, what are they called? Astronomers. They will predict the movement of the sun. Now when they predict a solar eclipse, it will be here, there, there. You can make a lapse photography, not photography, but chart. So what has happened? You have predicted what is going to happen in space. Of course, through mathematics. And then the event is taking place. So again, there is for that consciousness no different points of space because he is everywhere. So that's what is meant by the divine omnipresence. And because time is compelled to obey, he has already foreseen. That's why Sri Aurobindo says, when Ashwapati asks Narad, that what about, mistakes, this, that, then what does he say? He says, O Narad, O king, random seems the way through which our steps seem to run, yet each stumble is foreseen above. There is a meaning in each curve and line. Each stumble is foreseen above. Cry woe, says the world, but fulfills the eternal will at last. Whatever way you go, what a reassuring. That's why Mother says, Sri Aurobindo is the luminous praise, the promise of the future. Why? Because of this. It's guaranteed. Just imagine, not because we belong to a religion which has put a stamp and changed our name. It doesn't change our names. It doesn't depend on name and form, but it depends upon the nameless who has assumed a name. Sri Aurobindo Ma. That's how Supermind acts. So this is what we call God. But there is the absolute Brahman of the Vedantim. Let him go into that. That's okay. Goes beyond. That is Satchidanand, which is beyond differentiation in that unity. Some are attracted. There you don't need to go to the Supermind. That Satchidanand, go through any door. Escape into that. Mother says consciousness is like a ladder. And you can jump from any rung of the ladder into that, whatever you call it, space. But if you have to manifest the divine, then you have to climb up the ladder into the Supermind, where the key of manifestation is there. So there is that absolute. But even that, the seers went further. What is beyond Satchidanand? So they said Satchidanand is a shadowing forth of that which is Parabrahman. That you can't call it is. You can't call it is not. That's how they define. So some are interested in the indefinable, it's okay. But here, to fulfill himself was God's desire. The world by and large seeks the fulfillment. That's the general will in creation. So he says, obviously this is not the too personal and limited deity, the magnified and supernatural man of the ordinary Occidental conception. Look here what word he uses. Ordinary Occidental conception. Oriental conception of God is everywhere in everything, has become everything. Being is becoming. Occidental conception is arbitrary God who by his fiat is doing things, who says, let there be light and there was light, who says, go to hell and you are condemned to hell, nobody can save you, who catapults you to heaven. It does all kinds of arbitrary things. But the God of the Oriental conception is what we are reading, the Supermind. The truth consciousness is everywhere present in the universe, and as an ordering self-knowledge by which the one manifests the harmonies of its infinite potential multiplicity. Without this ordering self-knowledge, the manifestation would be merely a shifting chaos, precisely because the potentiality is infinite, which by itself might lead only to a play of uncontrolled, unbounded chance. So what does it mean? Divine is playing. He has decided. This is how the board has to be. So you push it here, he takes up the piece, pushes it back through his own process. You feel very bad. Why has he done so? But it will keep happening because that is the real idea. So the logical conclusion of all this is surrender to the divine and say, let thy will be done and not mine. When we have learned this lesson, then we are ready for the Supermind. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.